Hello, possums. Extra special hello to any other trendsetters who have landed on this channel. Good to have you on board. Now, we're about to enter the twilight zone as the Yeti goes to his meeting in Russia tomorrow. It's already Friday in Australia. Cannot believe it. So we'll do an extensive read on that in a little while. But first, on a lighter note, JD Vance, Vice Dictator JD Vance. Already, he took the kids on a skiing holiday. Remember when people lined the streets of the ski town and went, no, go away? And then he went rafting. And I saw somewhere reported he actually requested the level of the dam or something to be made higher for him to kayak on with the kids. And then he's now in the UK, and the Brits are turning out in numbers. And he was actually evicted, he and the family, from a very famous upmarket pub. So go the Brits. He must be finding it hard to explain to the kids, mustn't he? Like, everywhere Daddy goes, people hiss and boo. Why is that? Well, I hope they ask that question when they're older. And also, Daddy, seeing we're biracial, why are you a white supremacist? I think should be the other question on their lips. Let's hope. So I want to have a quick look here. I want to look at Vance more personally, how he's managing the family dynamic. We know he's fully invested in the coup to come. So this isn't political as much as person. Let's see, the never Trumper. Now supremacist. Let's have a look. JD Vance. Oh, my cards are upside down. Oh, judgment coming down on his ass. Couldn't be happier. Oh, now I'll just remind you, this is behind the scenes. This isn't the JD Vance who goes to meetings with corporate sociopaths, right? That's his day job. This is behind the scenes. He's starting to feel judged. Well, you would. Everywhere you go, people have signs wanting you to leave. It actually must get to them as a family, right? So, judgment, it's starting to have its toll. He's defending what he's doing to the family. Oh, this will pass. Soon Daddy will be president and everything will be really good. Okay, that's him defending it. He's torn because part of him has this really ambitious megalomaniac streak, this unworked out, unresolved, low vibration King of Wands here. I'm loving this. Walking away. Now, I'm not saying, oh, JD Vance is going to walk away, except that I am. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be something for the history books? But we're talking behind the scenes, so he's torn between his ambition and he's smart enough to know that even if he gets the job, the country is tarnished in such a big time way. All I'll say is there's a possibility. Oh, good, eh? We'll leave it there for now. Pull it up. I want to have a quick look at FBI second in command Dan Bongino. Apparently, the behind the scenes gossip is they're all a bit worried that he might spill his guts. I think he's actually, not that he's a nice guy, not that he deserves the job, not about anything. It'd be only his own selfish agenda. But they're a bit worried about Dan Bongino going rogue. Well, let's have a look. I'm using the governance oracles for this. Dan Bongino. Mhm. Oh, look. All right. Now, he's FBI, right? Second to the clown in chief, Kash Patel, who constantly looks like a deer in the headlights. Like he is so not up to the job. And I think that's a bit of what's getting up Dan Bongino's nose. He's balancing priorities in the sense of what hideous thing does he support next? What illegal fascist turn does he take next? Right? So he's not a nice guy. Deliberately obscuring things. So for now, he's towing the line, but it's like he's attached himself to this job to only do evil anyway. I think he's just a bit frustrated he can't do more bad things. Ooh, these are filthy cards in the sense of his energy is truly frightful. Policy overhaul, look at this, on borders and deportation. Policy overhaul, borders, deportation. If we were dealing with a nicer, better person, or even an average human, it could mean wanting to change these policies that are so vicious towards everybody. But I don't. It's like he's up there for making it worse. Ooh, puke. Now, speaking of arrests, a New Zealand woman who was working in the States took her 6-year-old to Canada and has been arrested by customs agents. She's been disappeared for 2 weeks. She has her 6-year-old son with her. Her family in New Zealand don't know where she is. One person got a phone call saying she'd detained, but not where and not the fine print. Absolutely disgusting. What does that mean? It means no New Zealander will go to the States for the next 35 years. We've all got our stories, all of us in other countries. The German tourists, the Australian wife of the US serviceman who got stopped and arrested in Hawaii while her husband, a serving member, was in the arrivals lounge and no one told him. So, bigger picture, bigger picture. Now, um, just a second while I gather my thoughts here. Yes, so let's move in to the meeting between the Yeti and Putin. And I'm all equipped here to do this next part of the read, right? So, comrades, let's dive in. What about the Yeti talking about Leningrad? It hasn't been Leningrad for 30 years. His brain is stuck in the siege of Leningrad, you know. So I'm using the Russian cards. They're out of print now. But I do love them, but just these occasions. So, as Charlie Angus and everyone else has pointed out, Putin is a wanted war criminal. They've had to make exceptions for him, otherwise, he would have been arrested under a normal situation in the United States. But no, no, being feted and courted, red carpet. They're having this meeting at the Air Force Base in Anchorage that is usually in charge of intercepting missiles and things. It's surreal. It's absolutely surreal. Um, but the European leaders did manage a phone call with the Yeti, and they really gave it to him. But unfortunately, that was 2 days ago. So it's gone from the Yeti's brain. It's all Putin now will be in his ear. And Putin, I'm sure, would bring his own translator. Okay. But while I'm shuffling, the other thing that Trump has in common with Stalin is Stalin was famous for not wanting any bad statistics. So when he started all the collectives and stuff, and various production numbers were down and not what he wanted to hear, so he would, I don't think he bothered firing people. I think it's more likely a firing squad, but they were certainly sent to gulags for giving him the information he didn't want to hear. And they were there alongside the political opposition who were jailed and the intellectual class. So he's having his own siege of Leningrad moment. All right, so what's going to come out of this meeting? All right, let's have a look. Hmm. Oh, my word. My word, my word, my word. I love the cards, you know. And this is why. Look, right. Okay. Now, should we be surprised? Okay. Now, with this 10, this is lugging the bedhead through the night, meaning this is a big ask. Who can convince Putin to change his mind or change his direction or do anything, to even think about it, is a huge burden. Oh, whoops. Here we have the coffin and the death card in this deck. I think it's the end of civility, the end of reasonableness. It's certainly um, like, yeah, it's depending what comes out of this meeting, we talked about America's reputation with Europe and the rest of the world is on the line here. It's on the line here. Now, this is, I think, the serious journalists globally who want to put the information out, the actual content of this meeting, because we're only going to get a garbled version through the Yeti's demented brain. By the time it floats out the other side, it's marshmallow, so we'll have no clue what actually happened. Nor will the rest of the world, because it's the translator's job to clean up whatever it is Putin says. This doesn't look like a ceasefire or a peace deal to me. I might just be strange, but does it look like it to you? No. This is Putin saying, um, all right, let's talk. I want to keep the Donbass region. I want to keep the Crimean Peninsula, and I want Odessa. In other words, all the key parts of Ukraine, manufacturing and its ports. Yeah. In other words, he's not prepared to give anything much. Although there are 19,000 children allegedly have been kidnapped over the border from Ukraine into Russia. 19,000 could be bargaining chips at this point. But no, and it's nothing Zelensky could agree to. If you let them have Donbass, it means they're there in Ukraine, ready to pounce as soon as the world looks over here for half an hour. It'd all be on again. He can't let that happen. Odessa is their major port. Crimea's been fought over for 800 years. It is in Ukraine. I mean, okay, let's have a top-up read on this meeting. No. All right. Excuse me. Ah, all right. This makes sense. Bottomless money pit. So this is, I think, the mineral deals. And this is what the Yeti might be offering Putin, even though he doesn't own or control the said minerals. This would be him going, look, bottomless pit, you have these minerals going forward, and I'm going to make a fortune, so that has to be good, and you get all these minerals. Yeah. Money, money, money. United Front, I think that's when they step out of the room and Trump claims it was a very productive meeting or something. It could go the other way where he snaps and snarls and so forth, but I think he's too scared of Putin. I think this is coming out with them going, oh, very productive meeting. Retains authority. Well, that's not the Yeti, that is Putin. Okay, so Putin will concede nothing and we'll see what happens from there. Okay. Now, I want to have it. Oh, I didn't finish my Joseph Stalin story. So, Stalin famously only wanted good news figures, right? And you didn't want to be the one who gave him bad news figures. So, he got this is a pattern with dictators, they get more and more out of touch. And that in turn led to the starvation of 3 million Russians because simply because he would not be told. You know, it's mind-bending seeing this cycle of history going around. And he would sacrifice the Russian people again in a heartbeat to keep his fantasy of bringing back the Soviet Empire. Right. So no one's giving Putin real figures. Now no one's giving the Yeti real figures, which is also a state of decline when the leader of a democratic country just goes la 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 when you bring out the figures. Shocking. All right. So now let's have a look. No, wrong cards. I want to pull some cards for you guys. Now, my niece pointed out to me I'm on 59,000 and something subscribers. Bless her, because I don't look at the analytics. So I'm asking you all, guys, thumbs up, please. Really helps the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, press the magic button, which is in the bottom right corner and really tiny because I don't know how to make it any bigger. And Australians are really bad at self-promotion. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and it costs you nothing. Okay. Now, oh, I knew there was one more major thing. A lot of the key news outlets have now been banned from the White House. Yet another pillar. Right. Now, that includes Reuters, Bloomberg, NBC, Associated Press, NPR, and Politico now banned from the armpit of the Oval Office. Knew it was important. Major. Thank God for the independent podcasters. Yeah, they're all doing a great job. Occupy Democrats, so many of them. Of course, the I've Had It women are doing a brilliant job. Jack Cocciarella, he's only young. Adam Mockler, and of course, Legal AF and Midas and so many. Here's a shout out to Tennessee Brando and Trey Crowder, the liberal redneck, Texas Paul. You guys are doing an awesome job because you live in MAGA country, deep MAGA country. So sending out love from Australia. Okay, this is for you. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Ooh, up and at 'em. Up and at three swords. What are swords about? They are about the intellect, the mind. You remember thinking? People used to think, bless. Not many, not all the time. There was more thinking used to be going on. Okay, so in the modern world, I think this is talking about critical thinking. You know, be able to do it. But swords are about the intellect, they're about communication, and in modern tarot, they're also about social media. It's about clarity of thought. It's about logic, about high ideals. And we've got three swords cards. Now, at the turning point here, this crossroads represented here. Right. So I guess all of us have to do this like every few months or weeks or whatever. We have to decide where our commitment is. What can we do? What can we as an individual do in this time? So I'd encourage you to have a think about that. Then embody your Queen of Swords. And this also, of course, represents men who are strong, well balanced men who aren't threatened by women, real men. Go Tim Walz and others, you know, need more of it. And inhabit your Queen of Swords out there. What's an issue you can take up and provide clarity? Page of Swords, this is my card for activism. So if we put this story together, I know many of you are ex-teachers and so forth, but this could be about in some way helping other people to think critically. Now, if you're surrounded by MAGA neighbours, MAGA relatives, MAGA work colleagues, etc., you can't exhaust yourself, but you might take on one. Just have a conversation with one. If you have teaching skills, you could offer a little free tutorial once a week at the local high school or something if they'd let you, providing they're not all teaching the rapture and revelations. Critical thinking skills. If you've got children or grandchildren, young age, it's really important kids are taught critical thinking, and also adults do not assume because someone takes an XXL, they're an adult. That'd be wrong. Okay, so think about that. Having a think about what you can do, trying to find this point of clarity. What's your passion? What can you impart to someone? But how to turn that passion into action and clarity. It's not passion like we've had in the other weeks about getting back into arts and crafts. That's always on the table. But this is about mental stuff. And how can you put it out there? Mm. All right, guys. Thanks so much for stopping by. And I'll see you on the other side of the siege of Leningrad. Okay? So take care. Talk to me in the comments. Bye for now. Ciao.